Get ready for the world's greatest Arsenal podcast. Welcome to another podcast by Guns and Yellow Ribbons. Enjoy the show.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to another episode of Guns and Yellow Ribbons. My name is Fergus. I'm your host. I'm joined by two of my friends because one of them's decided to not pay his internet bill, and he's trying to resolve that problem right now. I've left mine downstairs. You know that, Trevor. I've left mine downstairs. We were talking about I wore a peak cap. I've not worn a peak cap ever before, and I wore a peak cap for the first time. On Saturday, and I quite liked it. I thought it was quite good. And we were saying, are we like Ashburton Dad's Army? Or we've come.
That's where it came from.
Yeah. So we've come to the conclusion that it's Dad's Burton Army, isn't it? Is that how it goes?
I like that
Dan?
word.
I don't know. I'm thinking I'll get Burton Army for you lot, but never mind.
Trevor, looking very dapper there with your peak cap on. You just need to get your North London Forever badge on the side there as well.
Yeah. I'm very happy with this cap. I think it might be paying a visit to Aston Villa on Saturday, and it may even come to Eindhoven, to be honest.
Ooh,
it might indeed. Dan, good to see you, mate. Problems with your internet, I see.
Yeah, I've got the internet from the same place you got all your pictures, to be honest, mate. That's why it's all a bit dodgy.
Yeah, I know. It's a bit. To be honest, after your comments last week, you did me up good and proper. Trevor's got all his. Well, he's got Donna to put them up for him. All his pictures are all up nice and neat behind him. Mine are wobbling every time I open the door. So I went out and I bought a load of Velcro to level. I haven't sorted them out yet because I work. Unlike him, he's like semi-retired. You know what I mean? So it's quite easy for him to have time to do that, and he's got Donna who'll do it for him as well. So, Alex. Are you okay?
I don't want to say anything incriminating that your employer could say.
Careful. Yeah, all good, mate. Just had an email yesterday saying that I've got my tickets for the Euros next summer. So buzzing for that. I'll be watching England, Denmark as well. So that's going to be good.
The question is, will you have a half and half scarf?
I think I might need to get both T-shirts on and then. But stick with the one that wins after the game.
Sunshine supporter. So I just probably, if I were you, I'd probably just wear the England shirt then, because it's.
Yeah, I mean they'll probably win.
Was that Fergus actually supporting England there that I heard? Was it you actually?
I pay my taxes.
It's just the accent.
We got some Scottish fans. We got some. Excuse me. We got some Scottish people in there as well. Hopefully, Scotland get out there as well, and the Welsh. The more teams, the home nation teams that we got out there, the more teams that we have people involved in, the better.
Alex, I'll tell you what. Sorry, Fig. Alex, I'll tell you what, mate. If you've never experienced a Scottish invasion before, you don't know what you've got coming, mate. I tell you, them lads like to travel and they like a beer. Lads and lasses, I might say. Them Scottish lads and lasses do like a beer.
And I thought the Geordies were loud. Apparently, the Scottish, they're worse.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Lads, before we go on, we should take a moment to pass on our condolences to the Wilson family. Sadly, Meg Wilson, Bob Wilson's wife, passed away last week, and they founded the Willow Foundation after they tragically lost their daughter, aged 31, to an illness. They did try and do something in the ground, Dan, and it just went a little bit awkward. I think they got the picture up wrong, and then it wasn't it.
Yeah, they could have done it better, which was a shame because, one for Bob himself, but also for his wife and what she's done. So, bit of a shame, but everyone's been celebrating and nice comments on things like Twitter and things like that. So, obviously condolences to the family. It's not a nice time, and I guess good to see Bob at the stadium as well.
He was clearly touched. Him and his son. You can see they were focusing. You can see on the telly they were focusing on him and his son, and they were clearly touched when they displayed the picture and read out the message as well.
Yeah, I must admit, if I was in that position, I don't know if I'd been able to go to a football game. I would have found it very
No.
difficult. So
Yeah.
my hat goes off to him and his son and Arsenal and the Arsenal family around him. I think it's fantastic. Trevor, do you have any words on the Wilsons?
Nothing much to add to what you boys said, really. Just that Bob Wilson's a lovely, lovely man, and they're a lovely, lovely family. And it's so sad that it happened. And I got the impression that the moment's appreciation for Mrs. Wilson was a bit mixed up at the Arsenal. But what I can say, without doubt, is that there wouldn't have been one Arsenal fan in that stadium that wouldn't have wanted to show their appreciation to a lovely their appreciation for the life of a lovely lady from a lovely family. So, yeah, God bless Bob Wilson, and it was good to see him there, even in those circumstances.
Yeah, it was. Guys, we played Champions League football in the week. We had Lons in the stadium. It was a freezing cold night, and they used a lot of flares and everything else. Will you shush?
Waka waka.
Hey, 60 million down the drain. Kai Havertz scores against Salmon.
Ferguson's pissed again.
Listen, the Lons fans came in. They made a lot of noise. We'll talk about them throughout the game. But the one thing I didn't like about what happened was this with their flares. I'm all for a bit of pyro and atmosphere. I love it, a little bit of smoke and stuff going off in the stadium. But this was absolutely disgusting. Dan, you could hear the groan of everybody, and we were the opposite corner, but it fuming. I was absolutely fuming. As I said, I've got no issue with pyros. I just thought that was bang out of order.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when will the club do to other fans what other clubs do to us as fans? Stick them behind some netting, stick them behind some plastic housing if they have to, whatever they have to do. Just it's not right. Like the way we get treated abroad, and generally, I don't think we're anywhere near as bad as Arsenal fans as what some of the fans are that come into London. And you know, the Brits abroad get a bad name. There are some idiots, as there are, I think, with anyone. But to be honest with you, I blame the stewards at Arsenal a little bit as well. I think they need to do a better job of making sure that people can't get in with that. You know, we genuinely do have a few that get in the home ends, but not to that level. They need better security for the away fans, because it really isn't far off. I think something happening in a stadium that's really, really bad still, whether it's home or away and flares or something else. So it's not great as a fan to know security is that poor.
It's not. And Trevor, as Dan rightly said, you know, we'll go to Eindhoven, or you're going to Eindhoven. The three of some of the Danish guys as well are going as well. And there is netting, and you are stuck up in the gods, and they do try and prevent that. It's just Dan's got a point. Should they bring in temporary netting for European games?
Well, you'll find that we'll have some laws in this country to do with health and safety, or people's freedom to move, or some stupid law in the world we live in nowadays that probably says we can't do it. And our police would certainly be. Well, we saw it at an international, didn't we? Was it last year or the year before, when the police backed off from some overseas supporters? And so I'm afraid that's what it is here. They know they can get away with it. And if these people know they can get away with these things, then they do them. And there could have been a seriously injured person the other night, couldn't there? You know, I think Dan's absolutely right. It's a definite retraining requirement for the stewards that are meant to be doing the searches. But you can imagine them under the pressure they are when they do the searches, you know. So maybe there's a massive, massive problem that's not going to be solved until we start treating overseas supporters to this country the same as we're treated in most other countries in Europe. You know, we're treated like second-class citizens in Europe. We're herded like cattle. We're locked in pig pens, for want of a better phrase, at these games. We're not allowed to leave the game after for at least most times for an hour, 2 hours, even more, even, you know, and unless we start doing some of that to the overseas fans coming here, then nothing will change. I'm afraid nothing will change. It's sad. It was a sad night at the Emirates when that happened, but it happens all too often at these games. They're not policed properly, these overseas fans.
Interesting enough, Alex, your university thesis was on atmosphere and this sort of tribal behaviour that there is, and the issue seems to be more with European sides and I don't like to use the hooligan, but definitely the ultra sort of culture is very, very much more evident in and across Europe. And it just seems that we seem to, as Trevor said, seem to tolerate a bit more. You've got huge issues in Copenhagen, haven't you?
Yeah, we have. I mean, we haven't had away fans allowed for years now between Brøndby and Copenhagen, which is the main derby in Denmark. It's only, I think, the last game they were allowed to have away fans because the clashes outside between the fans is just crazy, and the amount of resources the police have to use just for a football game is just ridiculous. But I think in England you've done well in sort of like collective punishment, or sorry, individual punishment. I think in Denmark we've struggled to do that. They've just collectively punished all the fans, which has resulted in fans getting even more angry with the authorities, police, and but I think England has done well in slamming down hard on individuals when they manage to single them out and find them if they're not wearing masks and so on. But yeah, I mean, they're not helping themselves, the fans, the ultras, because I mean, it looks good, and I think a lot of people like what they do, what they bring, the atmosphere, but they certainly don't help themselves when they start chucking flares around. Because I mean, then we'll just see and feel more of the consequences that the clubs around will impose on European away games.
Well, maybe UEFA should take more action. Like Lyle just put up in the chat a few minutes ago. You know, if your team was going to get docked points in a group or kicked out of a competition because of it, and to be honest, as Trevor alluded to and said, you know, that could have caused a serious injury. Somebody sitting where they chucked it into as well was clubs, so somebody's going to be sitting there. They're not going to be jumping around. It's going to have landed virtually on somebody's lap. There's something has to be done. Let's look at the game.
It's good what the police did, I think, for Villa and Legia Warsaw. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but
yeah,
they literally didn't let the fans into the stadium in the end. And I think we need to be stronger with UK police and things like that, which we're not. You know, we're too soft at times, I think, as a nation with police. And you go anywhere abroad, and they're so much more regimented in their searches and segregating people in sections before you get into the ground. And yeah, you know, the UK's done a very, very good job in the last 20, 30 years of getting rid of groups of hooligans that cause trouble and making it a more of a family sport to be able to attend. And that goes for the away. And, you know, we need to be able to do that there. And if that doesn't happen, we need to be a bit harder, I think.
Yeah, well, we just have to remember when we went to Lons, how the club as well as the police treated us, which wasn't great. Trev, final point on this one, yeah?
Yeah, I'm just agreeing with what Dan says. You see, the police in a lot of these overseas countries we go to visit, Spain and Italy in particular, they're free to do their job and they can go as heavy-handed as they want with no fear whatsoever of any backlash from people. Whereas the police here, I honestly think the police are getting a bit scared to police here because of the repercussions. I'm not saying that's wrong. In some instances, it may be right, but it's not right in every situation. And what Dan mentioned in Lons was a prime example. The police led you boys up a street that they knew was full of rival fans because they were possibly, I'm not saying definitely, they were possibly hoping that something would break out so that they could get very heavy-handed with the English fans and blame the English fans as often happens. And I will say it, and I'll stand by it. One thing I will say, and I will stand by it, right? England fans abroad are not as bad as people as they're made out to be. They're not perfect, not by a long, long way they're perfect, but they're led up a garden path in a lot of instances. And the moment they retaliate is when people start filming and when people start taking pictures. So I'm not saying England fans are perfect or English fans abroad are perfect, but we're not as bad as the picture painted. I can tell you that for definite, having been going away for a good few years, you know.
Yeah, and I've witnessed now myself over the last few years that I've been gone away. Yeah, a few people are a bit, had a few extra beers and have had a long day on it and stuff like that. But you will get the odd idiot, as you will do at the Emirates. You're always going to get somebody or another. But yeah, I think in the main, one, the way the police work with the fans as well. We've met like the police liaison officer that comes around with Arsenal, very amenable guy, has our best interests at heart, as we found out in Eindhoven last year, Dan, and even saw us the following day and said, "Is everything all right? Everything good? Okay?" And we've bumped into him several other places around the country, and he's always said hello and been nice, So yeah, which is really good. Let's talk about the game. So the lineup we had Raya in goal. Back in goal, we had Tomiyasu, Saliba, Gabriel, Zinchenko, Rice, Havertz, Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli, and Jesus. I think, Dan, you said that probably was the best starting lineup that we can field, with the discussion maybe around whether you have Tomiyasu or Zinchenko or Raya and Ramsdale.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at players that are fit and available, that for me is our best starting lineup at the moment on form and ability. I do think when everyone is fit, and I know we probably all disagree a little bit on Partey, but I think Partey's a class above any other midfielder in the Premier League when he's fit and on his game. So I think he slots in there for me when he's fit. Other than that, Tomiyasu's been an absolute revelation, I think, this season. So for me, he definitely gets in that starting lineup. And it's probably a case of, do you stick with Zinchenko or Ben White, who's also been, I think, a lot better than most expected. Certainly myself. I think since we've signed him in that right-back role, he's been fantastic. So very, very close. And yeah, I'm not going to get into the goalkeeping situation.
Yeah, I think we've done that one to death. Alex, looking at Lons, they were very, very poor, but that doesn't take away from how very, very good Arsenal were, particularly in that first half. They shipped 4 goals in 27 minutes, and then finally Odegaard finished off the half with a late fifth. So we're 5-0 up with 5 different goal scorers: Havertz, Jesus, Saka, Martinelli, and Odegaard. Stunning performance, absolutely. When everyone was saying Arsenal haven't really come out of second gear yet, I think the clutch was depressed, hand was on the lever, and they were just slipping it into third on Wednesday. What did you think?
Yeah, it was. I felt like that was the first time we really. I mean, you could argue we did it against PSV as well, but that first half, that was the best I think we've seen the Arsenal play this season. It was free-flowing football. We had loads of space, and we just took every single chance that we created for ourselves. And I think we've struggled to score early this season. We did it quite well last season, but this season we haven't really done it, and that's why games have sort of stalled out a bit and become quite tight. But when you score early, it just opens up the game and gives us the amount of space that we need. And with Martinelli, Saka, Odegaard behind them, threading through the passes, it was just beautiful to watch. And another important goal for Havertz, the goal against Brentford was certainly important. And then to open the scoring, another one. It's brilliant to see him with playing with confidence. I thought he oozed confidence in that game, and hopefully he can just keep building on from that.
Trevor, we mentioned on last week that and the week before about European football suiting Kyle Havertz a little bit more, and he did look far more comfortable, and he's really easing into the side. And I think that we saw him a couple of times a few games ago where you just go, you just wanted something to come good for him, and he now just seems to have relaxed, and he's got that monkey off his back.
Yeah, he did. He is the kind of player where you just feel for him, don't you? And you want him to do well. You just look at him, you think, "Come on, son, do well." And I'm so pleased he scored a couple of goals. And let's hope, as we've said before many times, it kickstarts him in his way. I knew we'd beat Lons. It sounds big-headed, but I knew we'd beat Lons before we kicked off. Having seen Lons play previously, I thought to myself, they're not going to perform at the Emirates. They're not going to want to play at the Emirates if the crowd's up. And it was clear within the first 5 minutes. I actually had a fiver on us to win 5-0, and I cashed it out when we were at 4-0 because I knew we'd get more than 5. So it was a great European performance. I want to see these performances in Europe because I want us to go real deep into this Champions League. I'd love us to see us in the final, at Wembley. And it sounds like I'm hoping too much here, but someone's got to be there, And on our day, we're very, very capable. And I was very pleased with the performance in London. I'm very pleased with the performance in the group as a whole. We went to Lons and we buckled a bit under the pressure, more from the crowd than the football team, I think. In Lons, the crowd were very, very. It had come as a shock to some of our younger players, but and I think that beat us in Lons, but now they're used to it. A wonderful performance in Seville, a great performance at home against Lons. Now we can relax against Eindhoven away and have a good trip and look forward to the knockout stages. I'm very happy with where we are in Europe. I really am.
Yeah, to be honest, I was talking to Mem, a friend of the show, and earlier in the week, and I'm saying, where we're performing in Europe at the moment, and you do need some luck in the draw. If we get a good draw, topping the group, there's no reason why we can't go quarterfinal, semi-final, or even to the finals. Dan, can you see this Arsenal even before we even talked about adding maybe an Ivan Toney or whatever in January? Can you see the way we're playing now? We've got an easy group. I get that. Can you see us going on?
I'm shocked that we're having this debate because we're winning the double this year, Premier League, Champions League double. So I can't see it any other way at the minute. I think we're barely out of second gear as a club. Honestly, I'm so happy with how we are as a club at the minute because I think we've got so many levels and even what you boys are saying about how good we were against Lons. Honestly, I don't think we're out of third gear. As we said, we've got so many levels to go, and that was in a fantastic performance. And I think the fan base just needs to get back behind. I know most of them are behind us. It's probably not fair to say the fan base are not behind the club because they definitely are. But a lot of the noise we're hearing in the background from a small percentage, I think, just needs to stop because it's not warranted with how good we are and how far we're going to go this year. I think.
I don't listen to them anyway, Dan. Dan, at halftime No, I've not heard much. At halftime, we saw the team come out. We thawed out inside and came back out, and we saw that there was a couple of substitutions, and the substitutions were White and Kivior for Tommy and Zinchenko. I would have probably preferred if we'd gone Saka and maybe Jesus, because 5-0 up. The game's done, isn't it? Everybody was ready to go home, especially with the temperature.
Yeah, I mean, I think we, with hindsight, would have probably said the same thing, right? But I guess what I said to you at that time was my thought process was it's about building fluidity in the attack because our defense has been fantastic recently.
Yeah,
and realistically, that defense is going to be starting most games, so the guys on the edges probably won't get too much game time in the Premier League and the Champions League. So to give them a bit of game time is good for the squad. Also, hopefully, would have meant at half-time that a few of the attacking guys would have got more goals. I know it didn't end up that way, but I also think we massively dropped off in the second half, and the intensity, it was like a training game because we knew how the game was done. So yeah, I'm not too unhappy. Like some of them got a rest. I think they came back the game after and a fantastic start. So I don't think at this stage we can be talking about fatigue. I think they're Premier League footballers that at the top level should be more than capable of playing the games they've had so far this season.
Well, when you look at the Wolves game, and now we've got Luton tomorrow night, you're looking at, we've already played 3 games in 6 days, and then we're going to play Luton, so we'll have played 4 games in under 10 days. It's quite a lot. Trevor, we had Nelson, Jorginho and Eddie come on for Saka, Rice and Jesus. Again, good to see them getting some minutes on the pitch. Eddie was given an opportunity, but a clean through by Odegaard and fluffed his lines. Is this guy, right, okay, and again, let's do it with a bit of respect. The guy's playing in the Champions League, the guy's playing at an elite top-level club at Arsenal Football Club. There's talk about on some news networks saying that we possibly could be selling him in January to buy some better attacking players. Would you say, I'm trying not to slag the guy, is he good enough?
Why did you have to ask me that? There's 4 people in this room.
Because I haven't spoken to you for a minute ago.
I've always said, Ferg, haven't I, that I want to see more from Eddie, and he's still not shown me it yet. I still no. I think I think about Eddie, bearing in mind the other players we've got around Eddie, yeah. And if Eddie went, I don't think we'd miss him because I think we've got enough players of the same style and caliber that can put the ball in the net around him. So I I hate talking badly about any of our players, Fergus. I don't do it. But if you're asked, my opinion is that if we sold Eddie in January, it wouldn't weaken our team. That's the way I feel at the moment. Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah, no,
that's
by the way,
fair comment.
while we're at it, we talked about Tomiyasu just now, right? And I'm just going to sow the seed, so you might come back to it in a minute. If Tomiyasu's out for some considerable amount of time, it's a massive loss. It's an absolutely enormous loss.
I don't think he is, though.
He's on a late fitness test for Luton. He took a knock against Wolves, and what did I have it somewhere?
I mean, hopefully it's nothing to do with his calf, because if it is, then he's had a few issues in his calves, hasn't he, recently? So I think any defender, if we have a mid to long-term injury, not even a long-term injury, just a mid-injury, I think we'll be in the market for a defender more than a striker at the minute, because the Duran Timber injury has put pressure on the squad in terms of rotation. So it wouldn't surprise me if we're going for a defender.
Yeah,
there is talk of.
Sorry.
So there's a young Dutch lad I read in the paper and one of the columns that they're looking at. 17-year-old played well with Timber in the national team and stuff like that. I don't know. Alex, Jorginho.
Just quick, heard a rumor of Rob Holding coming back. How do you guys feel about that?
I heard not in a playing capacity though.
I'd be very surprised if he came back as a
Well,
player.
I think he'd have a contract where he could play. So he may not get much game time, but potentially as a squad player was what I'd read. I mean, it could be complete rubbish, but
I mean, he's not even playing right now. He's not getting any minutes, is he?
Yeah.
So I don't see how he'd get any minutes with us.
I don't think he would. I think it's more about what he brings in the dressing room, and then as a player, if you had the last resort that you had to play someone, could he step in? He knows the club, he knows the players. But yeah, I'm not really one for going back there. If I'm totally honest.
I think it'd be a weird move for him as well. Surely he wants to go on and play somewhere. I mean, he's still pretty young for a defender. He's got loads of more years left in him. So I mean, I'd be very surprised to see him back at Arsenal.
It's our defence is really interesting because we've been so short of defenders over the previous few years. Even last season, when Saliba got injured, it clearly showed. We started this season really with a strong and deep looking defensive part of our squad. With Timber and the other lads, but we've lost Timber and we're still all right. And I think we can get by with. If we lose Tomiyasu, we've got White and we can get by. But that means we're at the bare bones then, and that scares me a little bit, because lose one more when you're at the bare bones like that, and then you really start impacting on your squad. So let's hope that. I worried about Tomiyasu when I heard calf, because I think that was what he was out with last time, wasn't it? A calf muscle. So I worried a bit that it was a reoccurrence of that, and that meant a long time out. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully Tomiyasu won't play tomorrow, but he'll be back at the weekend, because he's been an amazing. I can't talk highly enough about Tomiyasu this season. Played wherever he's been asked to play. Not only has he played wherever he's been asked to play, been played in all those positions and played really well. He's not just filled in and filled a gap. He's been a help to the squad and the team in any position he's played in. So fingers crossed for the lad Tomiyasu. We need him fit.
Yeah. Arteta said in the press conference ahead of the Luton game, we assessed him after the game. We took him off as a precaution. We'll have to wait and see whether it's useful to use him or not. We will decide tomorrow. He's a strong boy, and hopefully he'll be fine. He is a strong lad, but as you said, it's the calf he had issues with. Jorginho closed off that game with a penalty. We missed the VAR. What did you make of the VAR decision? It just seemed to
clear pen.
Clear pen.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was two things in it. Firstly, he smacked his arm in his head, and then the ball hit his arm while his arm was out here. So he could have given the pen for either, I think so.
Yeah, we didn't see it because we had two traveling fans behind us. Now, we talk about we talk about
Can I just say
tourists.
before we say I was watching the game. Fergus gone into block 5 bully mode again, as he normally does. He is the local block 5 bully.
Block 5 daddy.
Yeah, I was being inquisitive. So we've got these two Americans behind us, and they're talking like about NBA and NFL, and oh my god, and soccer ball is this and soccer ball. I'm sorry for the Americans. I'm not taking. If you're a genuine football fan,
we've just lost 10 viewers now, folks.
I've got no issue whatsoever. If somebody's a genuine football fan, and even if they're not an Arsenal fan, and they get a ticket to watch a game and they appreciate the sport, I have no issue with that either. Like Dan doesn't really do rugby, but he went to the Rugby World Cup to experience an England game and so on. So I understand that, but these people didn't have a Scooby. I just there was a guy getting his ear bent continuously. I spoke to him on Saturday, and he said it was one of the worst games. He left early, and he never really leaves early. And Trevor's gone. I turned around and asked him, said, out of interest, where'd you get your tickets? Oh, we got them from Front Row Sports. I said, all right, how much did you pay for them? $130. Pounds? Dollars? What was that? £130. And I thought, it's a £40 ticket they paid 130 quid for. Season ticket holders, if you're watching this or listening to this and you are selling your tickets, just be careful when you put them on Ticket Exchange, especially the timing of it. If you put them on a few days beforehand, they're getting picked up by resellers, and that's what's happening to them. Because the guys who normally are there definitely weren't aware of that happening that night. Trevor's gone. I don't know where he is or what he's doing.
He's awful, and I must just say, I find myself regularly week in, week out next to this Irish bloke, and by God, he does my head in.
He's taken your seat, hasn't he? He's always in your seat, then.
He squeezes in my seat. He bends my ear week in, week out. These Irishmen, God, they are terrible.
We'll just finish up the final thing on the Lons thing. Action needs to be taken against this. Martinelli, when he went in to score, seats and lighters, etc., being thrown at him. But this is all that the Lons people have to see and watch on the screen when they were held back 6-0 to the Arsenal. Stick that in your French pipe and smoke it. European.
What, mate? Fergus today, he's going at Americans, he's going at French, mate. Honestly, Alex, watch yourself, mate. He's going to be on Danish next.
I know.
No, I know what they're like, and I know what word it is as well. So yeah,
not bringing that out today.
European football. We've got to finish top of the group. Let's look at who we could possibly face. So already qualified. We got Arsenal, Atletico Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Dortmund, Internazionale, Lazio, Manchester City, PSV Eindhoven, Real Madrid, Leipzig, and Real Sociedad. Sorry, not Real Madrid. The ones in bold are already qualified: Atletico, Dortmund, Inter, Lazio, Sociedad, and Leipzig. Trevor, where do you want to go?
I don't care. I don't fancy Italy because it's too much hassle. I've been to Madrid, Germany, or Leipzig.
Copenhagen, mate.
No, it's you're too violent in Copenhagen for me. Too violent in Copenhagen. I like a nice, easy trip nowadays. So I'd like to avoid Italian teams simply because it's not the most pleasant of trips. But anywhere other than that, I don't care. Anybody.
Personally, I wouldn't mind doing Leipzig. It's not far from Dresden, where my daughter lives, or Copenhagen, because Alex is there and we got free accommodation, and there's going to be 60 people on his floor.
Yeah, probably.
Dan, Eindhoven, it says here, are already,
it was the other way around. It was the other way around. Those in bold,
we can play.
I mean, it's good to know, viewers, that Fergus is well practiced on this, and he knows his stuff before he got on there.
For those listening on audio only, Fergus has just made another cock up.
So Saturday we braved the freezing temperatures yet again.
You seem to be moving on very quickly there, mate. Can we
no.
And just take this moment in? We own it. You've made a mistake. It's okay, mate.
I'm used to it. I do it every week. Listen,
I
if I didn't make a mistake, people would think there's an imposter in here. You know, I've got to get a name wrong, or I've got to get words wrong, or if I don't make a mistake, it's definitely people there's an imposter in the
I'll
room.
tell you what I did love on the little video clip we had of the weekend. I won't get too far ahead, but it also captured a little bit of Fergus messing up the words for the in any song, and we've got it on camera, and he's made a royal cock up.
Oh,
I did. You know what the annoying thing was? I got it right on Wednesday night when we were in the stands. I'd done it really well.
Oh, you got it 95% right. You still had one line, not quite.
Yeah,
there.
one word.
I'll give you a B minus.
So Wolves, the Wolves game pre-match atmosphere was much better than the Wednesday night. It seemed a bit more of a normal crowd. But and we had Dan back. Dan had his flag on and he was singing.
Dan.
Capo was back.
Dan is always in the building supporting his team, but Dan had created an opportunity for others which they didn't take. So
you're owning this place, yeah?
I just did what others didn't do.
Okay. And you know what? You attracted crowds again. There was myself, yourself, Dale, Oz, all the usual crowd that are around there. And while we were there, some people will have seen this on YouTube and Twitter and so on. While we were there singing some songs, in the background, I spotted out a young lady with a boy, and her boy was in a wheelchair. He was towards the back of the group, and I went around while Dan was singing, and I invited him. He asked his mum if he wanted to join us in the middle of the circle, and he said, "Oh, he'd love that, would he?" So we asked him, and he came in. Here's a little bit of a clip of the video. I'm not going to put the whole video because it's about 4 or 5 minutes long. It's on YouTube. If anybody does know the lady, let us know because we'd love to get some photos that we've got to her as well. So here we go. And you can see his mum's the blonde lady just there. You can see her. She's really loving it, seeing him in there. Really good, really, really lovely experience. Chan was there as well. He took a few photographs. There's one of me and Dan with him, and then the boys, Oz and Dale. He got out of his wheelchair. He could walk very little, but he could walk. And the boys said, "Was it okay? Could we lift him up?" And we lifted him up on that. The boys lifted him up onto his shoulder, and he just looked around and he just loved it. The photographs are fantastic. You know what? It came. Would you say a thing that just type of happened organically? But it just shows what has been built around Block 5. That anybody can come in there, be it the nutty girl that was in your face, Dan, the other week.
It's just welcome. They're not all welcome. Most are, but not all.
Yeah, but I just think it's nice. Trev, you sit on the outside looking at it because I know you prefer to sit there and have your beer and have a chat. How have you seen it change over the last 2 or 3 years? It's been brilliant, hasn't it?
Do you know what, Ferg? It brought a tear to many people's eye, that video, and it showed football fans like ourselves in a proper light, in a true light. There's too many people in this world that would, from outside football, that would look at that group we get singing there and think, "Oh, damn football fans or damn football hooligans." When the fact is, nothing could be further from the truth. Passion is not hooliganism. Passion is support. And showing that lad that support and that friendliness was wonderful. I'm just gutted I wasn't there to witness it. As I say, I'm proud of you boys. I'm proud of the Arsenal fans. Always proud of the Arsenal fans. We're a great family of fans. And it's a lesson to everybody that football fans actually really are nice people. We're just passionate about our club. We might swear and we might rant sometimes, but that's passion. Nothing wrong with having passion about something. So I'm proud of you, lads. Really proud of you. It was brilliant to see.
It's quite funny you said hooligans and stuff like that. I showed it to a colleague of mine today, and he went, "Oh, what? He came in with all the hooligans then?" And I turned around and said, "We're not hooligans. We're not hooligans. Well, you know what I mean, the ultras. And we're not ultras. That's where most of us are old men. We're just enjoying ourselves. It's just brilliant. Look, it's gonna be a hugely busy December. We've got Wolves,
Can I just
Luton,
come back
Aston
on that
Villa.
quickly, Ferg,
Go on.
before we move on? I don't often say very nice things about you, Ferg, but I do think you need a little bit of a shout out because it was you that went over. So definitely great that someone is also looking, spotting, and getting people involved. So, like, yeah, credit to you on that one, mate. It's a sport for everyone, and everyone should feel like they can get involved. And just seeing the little lad's face and his smile and hearing him sing his favourite song, it's what it's all about, and that makes the day for me. And also been in contact with his mum, and I think that wasn't his mum, I believe that was his aunt. And his mum and him are coming on the West Ham game on the 28th, so he will also hopefully be involved. And
You've been in, didn't tell us you've been in touch.
Yeah,
that's brilliant.
They'll be there on the 28th, so
And
it'll be good to see them there again. What I would say, and I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I love everything that happened. I'm not so sure on the video, because what I feel like is things like that should just be natural and should happen, and there's no need for people to video it and send things around. And it's great that someone obviously captured it and posted it, but let's just get the lad included like everybody else. It's exactly what it should be, and there's no need for video. We don't.
Wait. Dan, wait. I'm sorry, mate, but let me put it in praise of you. Let me put it in perspective for you, mate. Do not knock yourself or anybody, because the fact of the matter is, you boys singing there are always videoed every game.
yeah,
That lad wasn't videoed because that lad was there. That people video anyway, and the lad happened to be there, and a wonderful moment was captured. And so don't knock yourself down.
Yeah, you probably got a good point, but yeah, I just feel like do it for the right reasons, which is the reason Ferg went over in the first place, and that's what makes it lovely, and that's what's important.
Yeah, and there's been loads of kids that the young lad with the slick back hair. He's there every week, and and as all the lads come in, we all shake hands and say hello through the songs. I saw him in the crowd, and I went over to him, and I said, "Oh, mate," shook his hand, and he looked at me, going, "What?" I said, "You're here every week, aren't you?" He said, "Yeah, I am." I said, "Good, keep it up." I shook his hand, and we went back in again. But he was in singing before, and I've seen them all on video. So I know what you're trying to say, that it shouldn't be some sort of.
You put it in a better way, Trev. I probably didn't think of it that way, and like Andy said, I don't mind people videoing me. I couldn't care less, really. But yeah.
Listen, let's talk about the game though. So the game, we had a lineup of Raya, Tomiyasu, Saliba, Gilberto, Zinchenko, Rice, Trossard, Odegaard, Martinelli, Saka, and Jesus. No real changes from in the week. I think it's the same lineup, isn't it?
Trossard for Havertz. That was the only.
Trossard for Havertz. Yeah. Yeah.
Jesus. You mentioned all these things, man.
So, yeah, I am. I've lost my place on this here. So, Alex mentioned earlier about us getting early goals, and in the Premier League, we have had no early goals for the first 15 minutes of the game for all 14 games so far. Until this game, well, we had two in 13 minutes. First goal came from Saka, a beautiful assist. From Tomiyasu, and it was Saka's 100th goal. I'm going to mute the sound, and Alex, do you want to talk us through this? There was also a VAR on this goal, and I just don't understand where the VAR came from. But let's play. Go on.
Yeah, so it's what we've seen many times, him combining with Odegaard, and this time Jesus and Tomiyasu on the right-hand side, and he gets through on goal and finishes at close range. It's kind of either he goes on the outside and has a curling shot, or he goes on the inside, which he did this time. That's the most two Saka goals we normally see. But yeah, I mean, what a player he is for us, and he's still so young, and he's just gradually getting better and better. And he was manned up by two Wolves players all game, which he's been in all other games as well, but he just seems to find a way every single time to contribute to the team. So fantastic by Saka. I don't know what the VAR check was on. I think it might have just been checking for offside, which there wasn't. So not sure about that one.
Dan, the link-up play, as was said in the comments, there was really excellent. It was like the second goal, which we look at in a minute, was a typical Arsenal goal, but that goal was really good. And being Saka's 100th goal, he's going to play his 200th game if he plays on Tuesday night, which I would expect, unless he's injured, he will play. It was amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's key, and that's where we improve as a team. People forget that there's still a young team, a team that hasn't played that many games together. They have played a few, but our best starting three up top don't play that many together. Havertz is new in that team too. So when they start to really understand each other and know who makes what run and where to, how they like to receive the ball, and that will start to become second nature, you'll see our team get even better. So hopefully that's the start of
that. Yeah. Trevor, goal number 2, I alluded to already, which was a beautiful goal. Getting on to turn the sound off on that one, and just a typical Arsenal goal. Zinchenko made a huge amount of effect on this goal. A fantastic 1-2 between Jesus and Zinchenko. It was the catalyst for the goal, where he cut back perfectly to Odegaard, who scored from 14 yards out. Now, I know we're going to talk about Zinchenko in a little bit more detail as we go along, but Odegaard, having Jesus back on the pitch, and it seems to free up Odegaard more, doesn't it, Trevor?
Do you know what, Fergus? That goal was a goal of some considerable class, and it made me smile for days afterwards. I was so happy to see that movement. I was happy that Zinchenko was involved, because I don't think he's playing at his best at the moment, but that's another topic. But I think that you look at Odegaard's goals, right? I think it's maybe, in my head anyway, so it's a big reason why Smith Rowe doesn't get much game time, because Smith Rowe was doing very similar things before Odegaard came. He had the knack of finding the yard on the edge of the box and scoring goals like that. But Odegaard's got it off to a T. He makes the space and he waits for that ball to come back. And I'm sure that's been practiced. But it was a goal of some considerable class. Possibly the best goal I've seen this season from a team perspective. And I had to smile when I watched Match of the Day in the evening. Danny Murphy just couldn't bring himself to praise the Arsenal. He found every fault with Wolves defenders for the reason that goal was scored. But the fact of the matter is, not many teams on this planet can defend against movement and passing like that and finishing like that. It was a wonderful goal, and a great credit that we scored. We scored 2 early goals, didn't we? As Alex mentioned, and seemed to have a strange effect on us, didn't it?
It did. Well, we did have more chances. Trossard came close. There was Saka and Martinelli teamed up, and Trossard came close. Sa, I think, is the name of the keeper. The keeper, I didn't cock that one up. It's only 2 letters. But yeah, I know, Dan. I know, I could have. But he got injured in that, and I was asking why so much added time at the end. I didn't realise he was down for so long. It was 7 minutes added on. But it was a great save and a great attempt by Trossard.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, the first point of that is we should have been absolutely out of sight in that game. I know you said about it after the second goal, maybe wasn't as good, but we should have. We've hit the post twice as well in that game, and we should have absolutely been out of sight. But their keeper's one of their best assets at Wolves, to be honest. And I actually thought they were going to miss him when he went off, and when Bentley came on, I thought here's a chance to get a few more goals. But he actually had a good performance, in all fairness to him, when he came on.
We made subs in the second half, but there was a penalty claim as well, Alex, for Jesus. And I've seen the replay on the aforementioned Match of the Day, and they didn't even really talk about it, but there was a slight tug on Jesus's hand arm. I've seen them given to Harry Kane when he was wearing white over here and playing in N17. So, do you think there was any shout for a penalty in that one?
Nah, not really. I think it's one of those where I would have been quite annoyed if Wolves got given a penalty for that the opposite way. So I don't think it should have been a penalty. There wasn't enough. He let go pretty quickly, so for me, there wasn't enough for it to give the biggest chance of a game that a penalty is.
And there was a penalty shout later on, Trevor, which didn't even get featured on. It didn't even go to VAR, and it didn't even feature a match of the day. But it was almost like WWF slam dunk on. I don't know what player it was, but a Wolves player flattened the Arsenal player in the box.
I can't remember it, mate, to be honest. So it was that irrelevant to me. I thought that the referee had a decent game, in all fairness. I don't think he did a lot wrong. I'm quick enough to call him out. So I've got to say that I think he got most things right at the weekend. What he didn't get right, you could put down to human error, which is always acceptable to me, human error. You know, you don't want to see it, but if it happens to all of us. So, you know, I was very happy with the performance as a whole. I was a bit gutted that we didn't keep a clean sheet again, because we should have done. We were good enough, and as Dan rightly said, we should have been 4 or even 5 clear before they scored their goal, and it made for a dodgy last 5 minutes that we didn't need to go through. But we came through it, and we move on. We're top of the league, 2 or 3 points clear, and we should all be very happy. You know, we should all be very, very happy with the way it's going at the moment, because the biggest point that was made on this podcast tonight, can't remember whether it was Alex or Dan that said it, but they were exactly right, is that, in my view as well, we haven't hit top gear this season yet. We have not played to our best yet this season, and we're top of the league. Oh, it was Fergus, was it? Sorry, Fergus.
No, don't give him credit. It wasn't Fergus.
We're top of the league, you know, and we know we can play better. And it's frightening how good we could get. Get Christmas out of the way. Stay up there or thereabouts, and move on from Christmas, and get better as we can get better. There's no reason why we can't do big things this season. I don't sound it tonight, I know, but I'm very excited about what's going to happen back end of this season.
You know what it is, Trev? You're not sounding excited, but you look at also the way the players are acting on the pitch. People saying the atmosphere is different, and there's a different feel about the team. It's probably not as much of the roller coaster circus that it was last season, and they were enjoying it, and people are going, "Oh wow, look how good we're doing! How good!" They now have got a taste, and they got disappointed that they didn't win the league in the end. They lost it in that last 5 or 10 games, and I think there's a far more focus and seriousness, and we genuinely do think, you know, if we just keep our heads about ourselves, you need some luck, as I said before, we can go all the way in both major competitions.
Well, Arteta is definitely saying that, isn't he? Arteta is absolutely putting his best team out in the Champions League and the Premier League, which makes me think that we're going to see a few changes when the FA Cup comes round. But yeah, there's absolutely no reason, and we shouldn't be disappointed. And I honestly think that if there is a change in the crowd, I still think that the crowd is good most of the time, right? Sometimes it drops a little more than you think, and that's midweek games have always been different games, unless it's a big midweek game like a semi-final or a top of the table clash midweek. You always get a slightly different crowd, because people like myself who live 180 miles away think, it's going to be a bugger to get home from that. I'll give that one a miss, you know. So there's always going to be a different crowd for midweek games. So I wouldn't let that worry you boys too much. It's been the same ever since I can remember. Yeah. The big games come along, the team will get the support. I honestly think that and I don't want to mention it anymore, but I'm going to say it now. I think that the Ramsdale-Raya thing has had an impact on the club as a whole. I genuinely do think it's that big. But I think as fans, we've got to support what Arteta does, whether we like it or whether we don't. We support Arsenal Football Club, not any individual. And I think that if we move up after Christmas and we're still up there or thereabouts, you'll see the crowds lift again at the Emirates. You really will.
Yeah, I think on that topic, I think there's 2 things for me. One is momentum and one is timing. And last year we gained momentum very early because it was a shock to be up that high for that long, I think, to a lot of the fan base. It started off as a bit more of a joke that, we're top of the league and we're going to win the league. And then it started to gain momentum that actually, hang on a minute, this might happen. And then it just happened so early. Whereas I think now a lot more people are a bit level-headed. I think some people are a bit more reluctant to be getting ahead of themselves. But when we start to gain momentum, I think, and people get behind at the right time in the running, I genuinely think we can take it to another level. And I think we're not just the Premier League, but absolutely be pushing for the Champions League too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think I've booked Budapest. No, I know, Mick. I was just going to say, just following on from what Dan says, I think getting overexcited and ahead of ourselves. I think I booked Budapest up in December or January last year. But Irish Mick is right in there. What he says is defensively we are so much better, and as you said earlier, Dan, the defence is sorted. You know, it's the forward line and the tinkering around. Really a good point. Really good.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I said that last week, that if we keep our defensive record as it is, we will win the league. And I will happily put that out there, that if we continue conceding goals at the same rate we are, we'll win it. Because that rate is a rate that I don't think many teams would have not won the league in recent history. So add that to the fact that our attack's only going to get better. Then
it's Ferg, you can go back 100 episodes, you can go back 200 episodes of this podcast, and I've always said that a good team is built on its defence, and most importantly, a great central defensive partnership. I've always said it, and we've lacked it for so long. And this year we've got, in my view, the two best centre-halves in a country. Now, that's a biased view. My views are biased view, I know that. But people keep saying Saliba. I'll keep saying Gabriel, because that boy Gabriel is the same league as Saliba. They do things differently. Saliba may look a little bit more classy because he finds time on the ball and he can move the ball away nicely with his feet. But some of the tackles Gabriel puts in and some of the passion and commitment he shows to make a tackle are second to none. And if them two stay fit for me, we're always going to have a shout. We're always going to have a shout.
And going back to the point I made earlier about scoring goals early, we're undefeated in the last 44 games that we've scored first in a game. So that's going to be important going forward as well, to keep scoring first and starting off games well, because that opens up the game for us, because teams are going to sit back on us for the rest of the season, which they didn't really do as much last season, but I think it's going to be the case for this season. So we really need to start off the games well and get that first goal.
But defensively, one of the guys in the WhatsApp group gave me some of these stats, and I said I would use some of them. So in season 22-23, after the first 20 games, our league position was first, goals scored 40, goals conceded 17. And if you compare that to this one, after 20 games, position first, goals scored 45 and goals conceded 17. And similar sort of teams that we played, big teams and small teams. But I was a bit surprised that we conceded the same number of goals over all competitions, and that we had scored so many, considering that everyone's saying that we don't seem to be as fluid as we have been last season. I suppose before we finish up on the Wolves game, Zinchenko was a topic for discussion, and there were some people coming in hard on him, and I saw what you had said, Dan, about Zinchenko, but Zinchenko had made 2 or 3 errors, and on the third occasion, he made the error which led to what was a great goal by Wolves, by Cunha from Wolves, which Raya didn't have a chance. Dan, you talk about Zinchenko in this. I'll play the goal as it goes along. No sound.
Yeah, I'm not having this chat, to be honest with you. I think the last 3-4 weeks, Zinchenko's massively stepped up. I think he's been very, very good. I think he's better defensively than people give him credit for. It's only last week he made that fantastic block at Brentford. He was also fantastic going forward in what he gave us for that second goal. And I think a lapse in concentration has been clinically punished. And we know he can be caught out at times, but he's no different to anyone else right? Because he plays a role where he has to be on the ball attacking out of defensive position. And anyone that plays that role gets caught out. Trent Alexander-Arnold, I know everyone says he's not the best defensively, but we saw that on the weekend. I think that Match of the Day highlighted some of the spaces in behind from when he comes inside. I think that's just natural for a player that comes in and becomes inverted, that he's going to be susceptible to that. And unless you're going to play a defensive player that's not going to make those attacking runs as much, you're going to get that. So it's part of the team to be covering him when he gets exposed. So a lot of the view of Zinchenko is because he has space down his side. It's a little bit different against Wolves in that, yes, he did Dilly Dally a little bit and he made a mistake, but he got punished with a good strike. But I think he gives us so much more when he plays. His passion, his quality on the ball, but also defensively, I think he's not as bad as people think.
Arteta was asked in his press conference about Zinchenko's error on Saturday. He said he had no problem with him playing on Tuesday. He said he created so many chances as well. He provided a goal. That's part of football. We all make mistakes, and it's not only about that. It's how you react to those mistakes. And Trevor, he went off the ball a little bit towards the end of last season, and the beginning of this season, he went out for a few games. He's come back, and as Dan said, he's been instrumental in some games recently.
Yeah, well, I think he's got a mistake in him, Zinchenko. I genuinely do, and I think that Tommy Ash has been playing well enough to challenge for that spot. I really do think that. Tommy Asu seemed to if you watch Tommy Asu closely at the weekend, he seemed to play more inverted in the right back role than I've ever seen him do. He seemed to be doing the Zinchenko role on the right hand side. Whether that's too much to have both fullbacks pushing in so close to the middle of the field, I don't know. But Zinchenko's obviously a quality player. He's obviously a big lift to the team. His personality, you can't fault. But he's made some mistakes, and it cost us a goal on Saturday. And you've got to say that. You can't say he's been brilliant without highlighting that he's made some errors. So hopefully he'll learn from them errors, and we won't see him again. But Fergus has gone. Look.
Hey.
Maybe someone's cut Fergus's internet off. That'll be really
Finally, we've got our own podcast. Right, should we change the subject and completely go off the boil?
Yeah, let's talk. Oh, he's back. We can't. Oh, he's gone wrong side. Look, there we go. That's better. Yeah, but no, I've got no problem with Zinchenko, but I'm not going to not say that he's made some mistakes, lapses of concentration because he has. I'm not saying that he don't deserve to play. But I'm not going to say he's been 100% brilliant because he has made mistakes. And I do think that Tommy Asu is pressing for a place on either side of the defence. At the moment, it seems to be White's missed a couple of games to play Tommy Asu, but it could quite easily have been Zinchenko missed a couple of games to play Tommy Asu. It's a great predicament to have as a football club.
And we have Timber out as well. He's going to come in at some point.
But exactly, Alex. So this was the point I was making earlier, mate. We could handle. We've been so strong in defence this year. We could handle missing Timber. We want Timber. We could handle missing Tommy Asu. We want Tommy Asu. But if we lose Tommy Asu for a period of time and Timber's not fit, then you start thinking, what happens if White or Zinchenko get injured? Where do we look then? So that just about says that's all I've got to say. Really, we're all right at the back. We are really all right.
He just needs to cut out the sloppiness, doesn't he? Because we can't afford to lose points on stuff like that. We should have scored our chances and sort of put the game to bed earlier, but when you're 2-0 up in the 85th minute, you can't have sloppiness in your own box costing us like that. And it was the third time he did it in the game. So but I agree with Dan, he has been better defensively than he probably gets credit for in the last couple of games. So he just needs to cut out that sloppiness because he's been so good offensively as well. And that goal where he set up Odegaard was beautiful.
It was.
Liam makes a great point there, Ferg. Liam makes a great point there.
He was frustrated. He
was frustrated with himself at full time, and he clearly went and apologised to Raya.
Yeah, and
that gives you more confidence in Zinchenko. Because he's not walked off the field sulking and thought, "Oh God," he's gone and apologised to Raya. He's known he's made a mistake, and when you do that, you learn from them mistakes, right? So I can only see him being stronger for that.
Yeah, indeed. Listen, we're going to choose. We finished 2-1 on that. We're going to choose tonight. Very busy leading up into the Christmas period in December. We've had Wolves at home. We've got Luton away. Then we go to Villa away, PSV away, and then we got Brighton at home in a couple of weeks' time, and then Liverpool away. And after Christmas, it's West Ham at home and Fulham away. A lot of away games there for us. How do you see us faring? Let's talk about Luton briefly. First of all, Luton, you mentioned about the way the team reacted to the crowd at Lons. Trevor, a lot of these players, well, none of the starting players, none of the players who played against Wolves were alive or even born when we last played Luton in August 1991. 1991, not August, in 1991. They won't have been in a stadium like that since, all these elite players, since an empty stadium playing for a youth team maybe. So when they get Kenilworth Road with everybody sitting right on them, small ground but very intimidating, that's going to be really, really difficult to play at. You've been to Kenilworth Road, Trevor. Give us an insight of what these guys, if they struggled at Lens, what they're going to be like there.
Ferg, I'm really sorry, mate. But do you know what? In all seriousness, I've got no problem with it. The boys won't struggle at Luton. Luton's not Lons. Luton's not Lons. The boys, that team are good enough to go to Luton, and if we don't get a result, I'll be extremely shocked. It is a small ground. The crowd are very vociferous. It's the strangest of places. But no, I'm not having that as I wouldn't have that as an excuse, Ferg, mate, for us to not perform.
I expect I'm expecting a performance. I'm expecting a result. I'm expecting an emphatic result, a 3-0 or something like that for Arsenal, maybe even stronger. But I'm just saying that is going to be a very unusual atmosphere and quite an intimidating atmosphere for them to go to. As James said, Liverpool dropped points at Luton, and they were lucky, very lucky to get away with a draw.
Yeah, I still can't have it, mate. It'll be over 10% of that crowd in that ground will be Arsenal fans, and they'll be loud, and they will let the Arsenal players know that they're there. Honestly, mate, have no concerns about that ground. I don't mind Luton being in the Premier League. Actually, I wish they had a bigger ground, but there'll be no problem. I'm sure that we'll go out there. I don't care if Liverpool lost points there. We're not Liverpool, we're the Arsenal, and I think that we'll be fine. Honestly, do.
And we've seen Capos put a request up on Twitter to try and get to Kenilworth Road before they get their new stadium. I think it's next year. Dan, any luck yet? Any special secret messages?
I don't want to talk about Luton because I'm not going in a minute, so I'm not in a good mood. But I'm going to have to watch it at home on the telly, and it's going to be weird, and everyone's going to be singing, and I'm going to be singing on my own, and probably my neighbour's going to hate me. But so
I do the same. I sit here watching it, and
I'll happily take my.
I sit here. I watched the Bournemouth game, and what was the one? I think it was Palace where Havertz scored, and I'm sitting in here going 60 million down there.
Yeah, you can't help it. You can't help it.
Can't help it, especially when you're normally involved with it. It's absolutely awful. Expectations then, Dan, for against Luton.
Well, expectations are that we're a much better side and we should be dispatching a team like that 4 or 5-0. But the reality of football is it doesn't always work out that way. We go into a club with a small ground where everyone will be behind the team, and I think it will be a difficult game where they'll sit back and soak things up. And I mean, surprisingly, I don't know how accurate this is. I think I'm looking at the stats, and I think in the last 10 times we've been to Luton, we've not won. Is that right? For the away games, we won at home at Highbury, but we've not won there. I know it's a very, very different team now, but it just shows as well that it's tough to go to those sort of grounds, especially when they've started to pick up a bit of momentum. So I'm going to still go 4-0 and back the boys, but it might not be easy.
Alex?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. We are a much better team. Luton, they've won two games this season. if we're gonna make a run for the league title, we have to win games like this. And again, I want to stress my point. I think getting an early goal is going to be key to this game as well, because they are going to sit back and get the crowd going. And the further it drags on, it's going to be more and more difficult for us. But I think we will get an early goal, and I think we will prove that we are far better than they are players-wise. And hopefully Havertz will bag another early goal like he's done in the last 2 games he's played in.
And Trevor,
What was that for?
22 years old and 91 days. He's the second youngest Englishman to reach that milestone of 200 games for Arsenal after Cliff Baston, who was 22 years and 16 days. And he's the youngest overall player since Cesc Fabregas in 2008, who was 21 and 118 days. That will be his 200th game.
Someone please clip that. That moment. What was that for?
Yeah, that was brilliant.
Please clip that, someone.
I was just wondering, do you remember Cliff Baston playing?
No, I don't remember Cliff Baston playing. It was a little bit behind my time. I wish I had seen him play, because, you know, that team of that era was superb. But going back to the Luton game, I'm going to put my neck on the line here, and I may get this shoved back in my face, but the teams in the lower echelons of the Premier League this year, the bottom 4, 5, or even 6, they seem to be of quite a poor standard in comparison to what I've seen in recent years. I'm not seeing much good football come from any of them, and we really should be beating those teams, and quite comfortably, because we're so much better. I know that I'll get that shoved back in my face if we end up losing tomorrow night, but I don't really care, to be honest. It's a fact that the bottom few teams in the Premier League are not of the greatest quality this year, and if we're going to win the league, we don't have to only win in the Northwest. We have to put those teams to bed as well.
Sure.
So, you know, I can't see us losing, and I'll wait for the bombardment on social media tomorrow if we do get beat. But I think we should win comfortably. I think Dal said just now 3-0 to the Arsenal, and I would think it should be at least 3-0. Just going on the quality of the sides.
Can I just quickly come back to Saka? Because after the game against Longs, they interviewed him, and the same reporter that interviewed him told Saka that she also interviewed him after his first game, which was in the Europa League, and she brought up the what he said in that interview, which was she asked him how he felt when he found out that he was going to play in the game, and he said that he was so excited and that his parents had to put him to bed early that night because he was going to play. And sort of watching him in that interview last Wednesday, he's still got the same sort of young kid excitement about him. He said he didn't want to get taken off by Arteta. He wanted to play the whole game, and he's still got that excitement about him when you watch him. And he's just so humble as well. And we're so lucky to have a player like that in our team. And I just hope he stays in our team forever because I love him.
Danny Murphy nearly said it on Match of the Day the other night, and he got to work and he pulled himself up right. But I'll say it without a touch of bias, without any connection to the Arsenal matter. And I'll say right now, Bukayo Saka is one of the best players in the world, right? He's one of the best players in the world, and it's scary because he's still going to improve. And as Alex has hit the nail on the head, not just his football skill, but his level-headedness and his calmness. And I can't speak highly enough of the lad. Yeah, I know if I say it, you'll have a go at me, but I saw him make his debut in that Europa League game in Kiev, right? And the minute I saw him step on the field, I knew that we had a lad that was different gravy. I knew it. And some of the lads that I know that go and watch the youth team games. Saw him long before I did, and we're singing his praises. We have a very special player in Bukayo Saka at the Arsenal, and he's only getting better. And we need to just keep him fit. As long as we've got a fit Bukayo Saka playing for the Arsenal, we're going to score goals because he makes goals and he scores goals, right? And we are going to do well. So for me, I can't sing his praises highly enough. I talk about him all night. I love the kid to bits, and we've just got to keep the lad fit. Common sense prevails, and keep him on the pitch, and we'll be fine.
Yeah, my fear is that we overplay him a little bit much, but he seems to be that sort of player that just wants to play and play and play. And sometimes, you know, you do just have to play people because it actually keeps them fitter. I just worry that people kick the 7 bells out of him and somebody's going to give him a bad injury and knock him out for a little while. He's young. He can recover quite quickly at the minute and everything else. Listen, we've, as usual, tried to stay to an hour. We're doing 15. Yeah, I know. It's flown, hasn't it? Absolutely flown. Listen, if you like what we do, this is where we are. Guns and Yellow Ribbons on all socials. Guns and Ribbons on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. We'd love if you'd like, subscribe to our socials. And also if you went over to the YouTube channel and click subscribe and hit the bell. I haven't got it up at the minute, how many we've got, but we're still close to that.
956.
956. So come on, we need 44 of you good people to come off Spotify or podcasts and just come over here and subscribe on there. We'll be at Villa, and myself and Trevor still looking out for a ticket for Dan. So everybody knows. No, Dan hasn't got a ticket yet.
Has he not? Oh my lordy!
Yeah. So
yeah, I've not done very well this year. So far this month, December's not my month. No Luton, no Villa, no Liverpool, no Fulham. So if anyone's listening, and sorry, while I was off having a wee, Ferg, you said about getting more people subscribing. I think maybe if you didn't insult so many Americans and overseas people, you might get some more viewers.
Well, those soccer fans aren't soccer fans. They're watching the NHL and the NBA and the NFL. And
if you're watching from the US, please could you follow me, Alex, and Trev, even if you don't like Ferg.
Yeah,
yes, please.
Everyone is entitled to go and watch a game of football, regardless of how they get their tickets. And what Dan says is exactly right. Take no notice of Fergus. Come and say hello to Dan.
Not my issue is more with the ticket exchange and
we're so much nicer than Fergus.
Hang on, Ferg, can you just keep going, mate? Go on.
And
getting a bit
just had this message here from Dale. Dale's going to his first European away to Eindhoven next week. He's flying out with me on Monday morning. We're meeting at Stansted Sunday night for a couple of beers and flying out Monday morning. Really looking forward to it, Dale. The game is done because we don't need to win it, but it's always a good trip going abroad with the Arsenal family. So we'll be at Stansted Monday morning flying out.
And remember, Eindhoven is where this was made.
Are we going to get a part 2?
That's probably the best memory I've ever got, and we can't ever lose that video. Trevor, I heard a rumor that you lost a video, so we need to make sure we've got a copy of that just in case. I've got a saved folder for Fergus, and we're trying to build it up. He's making new daily we need to build up.
It's like having Jeremy Beadle.
What did you do that for?
No, I've got that video. Don't you worry, Dan. And I'll find somewhere with nice internet on Monday night, and obviously I'll be on my phone. But I'm looking.
What are you talking foolishness for?
Next week, and yeah, you know, Leanne, we can't talk about ballots, my dear, purely because we talk about it all night. I feel your pain. I feel your pain with these ballots. I think there's got to be a better way to do it, but I don't know what the answer is. So keep applying in the ballots. Keep supporting our great club. I'm looking forward to this. Come on, we're going to go so deep in this Champions League, right? I want a trip to Wembley. I'm not booking nothing because the last 2 years I've booked crap, right? And we've ended up falling flat on our backsides. So
don't jinx it, Trev.
No, we're not going to jinx it. We're booking nothing this year, Dan. I just said to the missus the other night. I said the European Cup final is at Wembley this year. And she said, what night is it? I said, I don't know. I said, it could be a Wednesday, I reckon. She said, but what are you going to do if you go on that Wednesday night at Wembley and win it? I said, well, come home the following Wednesday, probably, you know.
It's a Saturday. It's a Saturday night.
Is it a Saturday night? Well, I'll book
the 1st of June.
Yeah. Listen, I just before we go, say thanks very much to all the new guys in the chat. Seen some names that I haven't seen before. I've seen Paul Burr, Leanne. I don't think we've seen you before. I've seen George C. There's quite a few others. Arnie's a regular. Yeah, we always see Barry Byrne. There's quite a few others. So really, really good to see you new guys, and really always good to see the regular faces on there. Thanks very much for what you.
They're here every week, mate. You just don't notice them because you.
No, because I'm doing some other stuff. You know.
He got all them names right, Dan. Didn't make a cock up once.
No, I know. It's because he's. Well, I'll say.
Run through the snow.
There we go. Nice montage off there. We got it off TikTok. This one. Any Trevor time? Are we done? We've really overran.
We have overrun it. Just it's been a pleasure again tonight, Dan and Alex. It's Fergus putting up with you. Doesn't get any easier, but you know I love you. So yeah, let's have a beer on Saturday. It's been a while since we've been to a game together, so I'm going on Saturday, and the following week I'll be there at Brighton. I've missed it. I've missed a few games and I've missed it badly. But when you get old like me, shit happens, you know.
Brighton is peaky hats and Christmas jumpers.
You don't get this boy in a Christmas jumper, but I've got me hat ready. How's that, right?
Get in.
Right, you have been watching Guns and Yellow Ribbons, an Arsenal podcast by Arsenal fans for Arsenal fans. Thanks very much, everyone. Up the arse, fuck the Spurs.
Thanks for listening to Guns and Yellow Ribbons, an Arsenal podcast by Arsenal fans for Arsenal fans. Follow us on Facebook at Guns and Yellow Ribbons or Twitter at Guns and Ribbons. And remember to rate and review us too. Up the Arsenal.